Under the same moon, we share the love, embracing the differences like hand in glove. Spreading peace and joy, it's a beautiful sight. Together we shine in each other's light. United we stand in love's pure might. Watching the world share in love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the weekly legal review with Calvin Johnson, the criminal defense attorney. Yes, we look forward to this show every week as Calvin comes on to help us understand when it comes to the news. He gives us that legal background that each and every one of us need to understand. Tonight, we're going to talk about some issues that are puzzling the watchers all week long, especially when it comes to Anton Daniels and Corey Holcomb. Or what about what's happening in Greenland, Venezuela, and Minnesota? What a chaos. You see what's happening there, sending out 1,500 troops. What's happening? Let's bring on Calvin Johnson to help us understand how to navigate these tumultuous times. Calvin, how are you?
Man, how's everybody doing, man? We're here, of course, trying to figure this all out, trying to make sense of it all. And it's extremely interesting at this point that everything is happening in America that's kind of happening right now. And, we're going to have to do something about it because it's just chaos on chaos. I mean, every time we turn around, every time we look up, something is happening. The lady getting shot, 1,500 troops going to Minnesota. And then, just the fact that the way that they're running up on people. I mean, ICE is really out there, really flexing their muscles on people. And you have to truly realize, man, we're gonna keep it real as a culture, man. These guys are running around with Pooh Shiesty mask on, running up on people, asking them for their ID, ski mask up. Man, that's just a dangerous situation, not just for those people as a whole, but just for everybody involved, man, running up on people with ski mask, trying to determine what their citizenship is. That's not what we envisioned. Even those who supported having ICE on the ground, I don't think that they envisioned running around and running up on people. Let's talk about one thing in particular. I heard that they went to a Mexican restaurant, ate, and then came back and arrested the people that served them. And see that there we go. And then now when they start getting denied service in certain places, here we go. But these are the kinds of situations that are happening in America right now. And it's just flat out chaotic.
Yes, indeed. Well, I'm going to have to push back on you a little bit. I have to be the first to inform you that Donald Trump is above the law.
Yeah. You know what? Mel, I can't argue with you. Sometimes I go like, nah, Mel, everybody's nobody's above the law. He actually is. Him and his supporters have decided that because they agree with him, they're going to let him do whatever he wants. And he is doing whatever he wants. And I think this is going to be a huge problem coming down the pike with some of these things that he's doing.
Donald Trump is something like a prophet. He said that he could stand here, New York, Times Square, shoot a man in broad daylight, and his supporters would still ride or die for him. What do you think about that?
Oh, that's the truth. I really do think that. We come on this platform, and several times we've had people come on and comment, and they don't comment from a point of actually having a real conversation. They actually comment from a point of, I support Donald Trump, and I'm willing to allow him to do whatever he chooses to do. And that's the very, very concerning part for me, as well as other people in America right now, man. Him doing whatever he wants to do, whenever he wants to do it. We have grave concerns about that.
How would you describe the making of the man, President Donald Trump? How could a man rise to such heights in America?
I just think that there are a lot of factors. I mean, I think that for years we have been talking about the race of America changing. There being more Hispanics, more Black people. The fact that whites won't be the majority. I mean, I think there's a lot of fear that goes into that. And then there's a fear of pitting poor people against each other. It's like telling people they're not making it because somebody else took their pie. While the big brother takes all the pie and eats it, he's pointing to somebody else is taking your pie. And I think that's kind of what we were looking forward to in America. I mean, it's really, really, really bad. And so when you look at Donald Trump, you have to think about it. He's privileged. He's never really had to suffer any consequences. Even when his businesses go bankrupt, he has not had to suffer consequences. Even when he got found guilty of all those felonies, he hasn't had to suffer any consequences. Even on January 6th, where him as president chose not to do anything while Congress literally was being attacked, he didn't really suffer any consequences for that. So even when he does not do something financially successful, he just files bankruptcy and just starts over. So he's never had to suffer really any consequences of anything of his behaviors in the past. And that's very dangerous, not politically. When you really talk about it, it's just dangerous, period. Because people that don't suffer consequences, they tend to be reckless.
It's my opinion, it may not be popular, that Donald Trump actually came to office with Greenland in mind, Venezuela, and other places to conquer. I think this is how they wanted to gather resources to fill in the American deficit. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that is what they're trying to do. And that's a very, very dangerous way to look at things. I mean, number one, Greenland is not just going to let America take it. The Europeans are not just going to sit by and I think let that happen. And I think it's putting us at odds and it's putting us in a position to where we're really changing our norms to our partners in Europe. And when I say our partners in Europe, England, France, Scotland, those places that are there in Europe, we have really developed relationships that allow us to stand up against tyranny and some dictatorships across the world. And I think we've broken that alliance, and I think that people look at us as a bully at this point. And you got to be careful because all bullies eventually get beat up. And it doesn't take much for us. Now, do we have the most powers and weapons? Yeah, we have the most firepower. We're the strongest nation in the world. But all it takes is a little bit of something to happen to our citizens, or all it takes is a little bit of something to where things are basically done to us on either a sneak attack or in guerrilla warfare or quietly through cyber or drone work. You got to really, really think about what we're doing in America right now. We are really looking like the big bully.
You know, when it comes to MAGA, a lot of them feel that MAGA is synonymous with Christianity. In fact, in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, it talks about a trumpet sound, and a lot of the MAGA individuals will say, well, that's Trump being mentioned in the last days as warning the people. This is what they say. What do you think about that?
And that's the biggest thing that I personally have had a problem with because I consider myself a person of faith. And the MAGA movement has hijacked American Christianity. They have literally hijacked it, and it's very, very disappointing because there are a lot of people in America that take their faith seriously that do not like what's happening with Christianity in America. And it's very, very sad to watch as a person of faith that I've had conversations with people who I had considered were brothers in faith and sisters in faith, and to know what they were willing to allow, that they were going to put their politics above God, ahead of God. And that's something that the Bible teaches us not to do. But I've seen several times, several situations where people I've known for years have decided to go MAGA and to put their MAGA version of Christianity out there. And it's very, very sad.
During Donald Trump's first presidency, he was not pushing Christianity. At some point while he was running the second time around, he made a decision to embrace the Christianity movement and actually forefront it in a way. Do you think it's by design?
It is by design. They show situations where he's holding Bibles upside down. He's showing situations where he just does not know any Bible verses. Not trying to say that that makes you more of a Christian or not, but it does not seem like what happens is that he uses the ability to treat people like sheep when it comes to religion, and he uses that religion or support of or alleges support of their religion to get them to follow him, and he's very good at doing so. I mean, he doesn't behave in a godly manner, and let's be honest. And so there's the problem. He's not really a Christian. He's an opportunist, and everybody. I'm just gonna say it. Nothing against those who support him, but he's an opportunist. He's not a Christian,
As a
in my
criminal,
eyes.
all right, as a criminal defense attorney, can you help us understand, walk us through the process of how it's legitimate to go into Venezuela and arrest a man who claims to be the president of the country?
Well, what he is trying to do is use some of, they say, War Powers Act, or he's trying to use the fact that these people are a continuing threat to American safety in America. And that's what he's trying to do. He's not really trying to basically enact powers of war, but he is trying to say that the drugs that are coming into America are harming our country to a point where we have to do something. And that is concerning because the concern we have is he literally went into another country, took the leader out, basically kidnapped him, brought him to America, and basically brought him to court. Do you know what the other leaders of the world are doing when they look at him and they see this? When you see somebody do something like this, it's to a point where some of these leaders are going to say, hey, before he does this to me, I'm going to do something to him. And that's where you got to be extremely careful. Before they do that to us, we're going to do something to them. You're going to have people actively working to make sure that America does not succeed in its foreign relations. In addition to that, that's a very, very dangerous precedent to set for our leaders now and in the future.
All right, I want to ask you this question. How do you navigate for the truth? Sometimes I post things and people push back and they don't even have any facts. They just babble and babble, right? But when I was at Maduro's hearing here in New York, there were people out there on the street supporting him, and there were people fighting against him. A lot of the individuals said that the people in Venezuela, they're so happy that Maduro is gone and so forth. But when I look at the actual video of boots on the ground, I see people out there saying we want our leader back. So how do you navigate the truth when there's so much information floating around?
Was Maduro the best leader for Venezuela? Who knows? Probably has a lot of problems, probably allowed a lot of things to happen. But I think it's the Venezuelan citizens' decisions to decide who is going to lead them. I don't think it's our business to go into Venezuela and tell them who their leader should be and to take their leader, kidnap him basically, and bring him to America. Because the problem is, those Venezuelans are smart. They know that, hey, yeah, maybe some of us don't like Maduro, but we've set a precedent where America's coming in and they have decided that they're going to tell us who our leader is going to basically be. Any leader in Venezuela that disagrees with Trump they're going to get pushed out. That's why you see that lady. I think she had won a Nobel Peace Prize or something like that. The way she tried to kiss Trump's butt here recently, and it's a shame. When you look at that kind of behavior coming from people, you look at that kind of behavior coming from an American president who does not go to Congress to get any power to be able to do that, who just does what he wants to do, and you have a Republican Party that is basically um, just weak and are unable to have a backbone to ever stand up to something that he does. He basically has a party that's afraid of him, and that's a concern for us. We need strong people that are going to stand up and fight against people that are afraid of him.
So you live in Texas, correct?
Yes,
Okay. And you enjoy the comfort of a nice home with your family. That
yes.
that existence that you have was not built on love and happiness. It was built on violence, slavery, people getting their head chopped off, right?
Yeah.
So why would you expect that the United States would not go and conquer other places? Isn't that what
And
we've always done, right? That's how this place exists, right?
yeah, that is. But I think that here recently, the openness to do so in a fashion where you basically swoop in the middle of the night and kidnap a leader and bring them to American courts. When a country is not attacking you, they're just selling dope, allegedly. Who isn't selling dope to America, to be honest with you? We have a lot of addicts around here in America, and that's something that we need to deal with as well. We have to deal with our proclivity to be addicted to drugs. We have a problem in America that sometimes we have created on ourselves. But with that being said, you're right when you make these points about America conquering places. We have conquered lands. We have walked in. We took the lands of the Indians. We brought African American people over. We brought African slaves over here, and we made them work for free. We have exploited Hispanic workers to the South to the point to where when too many of them came in, now they're a problem when they used to be partners. You got to start thinking about that. And when you look at what's happening in Venezuela, and you look at what has happened in the past in America, Mel, you make points that we cannot deny. You're being honest, and that's something that we have to think about when we think about America.
Who gets the right to sit on the mountain and tell everybody behave now?
The ones with the biggest guns, I guess. The
Exactly.
ones with the nuclear weapons, and we are that. And the problem is, in the past, we've shown some kind of discretion. We've kind of showed some kind of restraint. We're losing that restraint, chasing money. But there's going to be a time, and we got to be extremely careful. We're not the only one that has power. We're not the only one that has an army and a navy and an air force. We're not the only one that has nuclear weapons. If you threaten the wrong person, something's going to happen, and it won't be Mr. Trump's, uh, you know, suffering from the consequences. It's going to be American troops and American civilians that will pay for that.
I don't personally believe that the Republicans are going to be able to hold the seats for much longer. With that being said, the Democrats are going to go and undo everything Donald Trump has done, right? And then when they switch up again, we're going to switch up everything that the Democrats have done. Does that help? Does that hurt the American people in the long run?
Mel, I think you made an assumption that there's going to be a fair election this next time. I think you made an assumption that Trump is going to willingly let power go at the midterms or even when he potentially loses the next election or his party loses the next election. There's some assumptions being made. And it's funny how I'm saying that you're making assumptions because in the past, what has happened? We get to the midterms, some people vote. The party that's been creating the havoc or not doing well gets voted out, and the new party comes in and they do exactly what you said do, right? But we have a maniac for a leader. So what's going to happen when we come in and he's still the president, and let's say he loses the Senate and he loses the House. Now you're going to have the House and Senate against a president that basically has the power to wreak havoc in the executive branch by getting rid of people, firing people, making laws through executive orders. I mean, this thing is going to get ugly. In addition to that, he just got all the voter rolls from Texas from Greg Abbott. And there's no telling what he's going to do with that. There's no telling what he's going to do with the other voter rolls when you have large cities that don't support him and how they try to purge those people and keep them from voting. I don't make any assumptions that this election is going to be fair or that the Democrats will even win it. And I'm telling you right now, we got to be extremely careful about making the assumption that there's going to be a fair election this next time and that the Democrats are going to win it, because I think that the Republicans are going to suppress voters and they're going to be strategic about it and they're going to be surgical about it. And we better wake up and do something about it before that happens.
We have a lot of people in the audience. Some of them are pushing back on you. Could you take a moment, tell them your credentials, and tell them to back up off you?
My name is Attorney Calvin D. Johnson. I have been practicing law for the last 24 years, almost 25 years. I hold a Bachelor's of Science in Political Science and History from Howard Payne University in Brownwood, Texas. And I hold a Juris Doctorate from the St. Mary's University School of Law. And I graduated from the High School for Public Services, Government and Law, which basically I've been involved in government and law since I was 13 years old. And so I have studied politics, government, and history and the history of leaders. And so any of the things that I talk about, I have experience talking about. And what I always say is, hey, listen, you can openly disagree with me. That's great. But if you're going to disagree with me, come with some facts. Let's have a real conversation. Let's not just go off of the Trump worship. I mean, we're honest here. We have conversations where we criticize the Democrats and we criticize the Republicans. And so right now, the Republican Party is allowing a president to run ramshot and do whatever he wants to do. They literally are hiring ICE agents and doing very little background checks. There was a reporter, a journalist who applied, who was a former veteran. She literally applied, didn't even put all the right information in her application and got hired by ICE. They literally wanted to bring her in. And literally when she was going to do the second interview, she thought she wasn't going to get accepted. When she was going to do the second interview, they literally had already had her listed as an ICE agent for a date in the future, was basically saying that they already had made the assumption that they were going to hire her, despite all of her information not being proper. They're sending people in the streets that are not properly trained to do this kind of duty. I mean, you have to mentally be prepared to deal with people that may push back on you and not shoot them and kill them when you have disagreements out there. You have to be trained how to pull your weapon, how to position your body in front of vehicles. You have to be trained to mentally be able to control yourself when you get into disagreements out there with the general public. That is not happening. So at the end of the day, if you want to disagree with me, fine. But let's have a real conversation about why you disagree with me. And let's talk about how we can make this country better.
Hannibal says, I wonder why Trump doesn't post the job numbers anymore.
Because they're terrible. Companies are closing down. Saks Fifth Avenue, Neiman Marcus is closing down. All of this other stuff is happening in America. All these companies are closing. AI is taking over jobs. Amazon is going through at night, closing plants down and not even telling anybody. There are certain towns that are in America that still do manufacturing there, and companies in those towns are closing. I was reading something about a company that literally employs about a third or 2/3 of a town at his plant. It's going to close, and what's going to happen to that town? So that's where we got to start, talking about. We got to start talking about that kind of stuff. We got to have real conversations. Even as I read the comments, it's like, oh, nobody likes lawyers and this and that. It's just like, attack me all you want, but can you honestly have a conversation attacking what I'm saying? Can you actually bring some facts and some figures and some knowledge to actually combat what I'm saying? Can you talk about what this president is doing and not going back to what Biden is doing? Like, Trump has been a president for a whole year now. It's going to be on him. He has a Republican Congress that he controls. He has a executive branch from the presidential office he controls. It's all on him. He can do whatever he wants to do. So it gets to a point where America is going to be tired of the silly excuses about Biden and Obama and Kamala and all this other stuff. No, man, you guys are in control. Do something. People don't care about what happened a year ago. People elected you allegedly for change. Start changing stuff. Instead of all this chaos that's going on out here, let's have a real conversation about that.
Donald Trump says that he should receive a Nobel Peace Prize because he solved 8 wars. He's lowered the price of eggs. He's lowered gas. He's also lowered pharmaceuticals as well as the health care. He's going to give money, have the insurance company give money back to the people. What do you think about all these achievements?
And that's the thing. I mean, he the problem with him is the people that some of the people, not all of them, but some of the people that follow him are willing to listen to anything he says. They're willing to agree with anything he says without any facts backing it up. But at the end of the day, let's be honest. I mean, if they voted for him, they really don't really question some of the stuff that has come out of his mouth during the election. They decided that they were going to look over any concerns about truth telling, any concerns about temperament, any concerns about any of those things to go ahead and vote for him.
Right.
Now, unlike most people, I mean, I like to do that, but unlike most people, I do have problems with Republicans and I have problems with Democrats. I tell people all the time, I mean, the process of selecting the candidate that was going to be the Democratic nominee last time was completely flawed. You can't just randomly pick a person, make them the nominee without them being tested, as well as making sure that the general public, I'm sorry, y'all, had an opportunity to actually decide if that person was the best nominee. I have these conversations all the time about Democrats and Republicans. Democrats have to do a better job of leading. They have to do a better job of getting back the working man. They have to do a better job of making sure that there's some guardrails in this country. You can't allow people, immigrants, to just come over here, get all of the benefits, be taken care of when we haven't taken care of our own citizens and veterans. I tell people this all of the time. I'm an equal opportunity person when it comes to criticizing Democrats and Republicans. The Democrats have to do a better job of that because if they did a better job of that, maybe we don't have some of the problems that we're having right now. We have to truly decide, instead of arguing for a party, we got to look at ourselves and say, hey, look, what's going to be the best thing for this country? What's going to be the best thing for moving forward? And sometimes it causes us to question whether you're a Democrat or Republican. Sometimes you have to question your own party. If you're going to blindly follow somebody just because they told you what you want to hear, then the conversation with me is not, well, I'm not willing to have a conversation with a person like that. And that's not doing anybody a darn bit of good.
Okay, let me ask you a question. In Minnesota, they're actually snatching people up by their collar, throwing them to the ground. Do you think that that's necessary to get the job done?
I don't think it is. And I think that's dangerous. Like, I always tell people all the time, nobody's touching me. And I mean this, nobody's touching me that has no right to touch me. And there's a lot of us out here that feel like that. And there's going to be things that are going to be happening to people that do that. You don't run up on people, grabbing people, throwing them on the ground. You have no right to do that. And see, that's the thing. We're citizens. We have rights. All of us have people that are veterans in our family that have lost their lives. My uncle was a veteran, saved his own whole platoon, literally sacrificed his mental health, his family after the war, came back, and America did not take care of him. So when I talk about this, I say, look, listen, we need to be extremely careful about what we're allowing in this country. My uncle did not fight for this country for us to come back to have ICE agents riding around in Pusheisties that are poorly trained, shooting at folks, chasing people home. There was a lady that got chased home, and these ICE agents were 4, 5, 6 big men in a truck following her home, asking for her ID. She literally ran home, ran inside her house, and her husband came out and told them that, hey, she's a citizen, and now y'all got to get your butts out of here. These are the kind of situations, man, that are really bad. I mean, the stuff that's happening in Minnesota, they don't have to do things the way they're doing it. They need to be very targeted. They need better training. I mean, let's be honest, man. This is crazy in America right now.
Absolutely. What do you say in regards to the whole ICE epidemic? Do you think the fraud kind of precipitated this whole thing?
I think it did. I think it did some of it, and because you cannot have the kind of fraud that's happening in Minnesota to happen. And I'll tell people like that. I'm an equal opportunity commenter when it comes to party and politics. Tim Walz was in control of the government in Minnesota, and under his watch, this happened. It shouldn't have happened. If he was doing his job, if he had people in the proper places, making sure that the job was being done, that American dollars were not being wasted and given to these Somali people that are committing this fraud, I totally understand that. And yes, that's part of the reason why some of this is happening. But they have to figure out a better way to be able to target the people that committed the fraud and go after them. But bringing in 4 or 5 times the amount of police that they have in a city to do the stuff that they're doing, to run up on people randomly, that's not something that should happen. What if I'm a citizen and I got these 4, 5, or 6 big men ICE agents running up on me, and it's dark and it's at night? Do you know what can happen? We got to start thinking about those types of things.
Some people are saying that the ICE agents are actually from Israel, and maybe that's why they're so combatant. What do you think about that? You think it's a myth?
I've heard that some of them aren't citizens. I heard that some of them are getting the opportunity to become citizens by doing this work, and these are the things that I get concerned about. Like, I mean, what process is used to be able to hire these guys? And see, that's a concern that I have, because when that journalist did their report, she literally said that she filled out an application with some of the information not fully vetted out, and they were ready to hire her. And see, that's the thing. And people are questioning, should the votes count for people that were deported if they voted? Hey, listen, if somebody voted and they're not a citizen, they should be out of here. They should be charged. They got to go. But this is what I'm saying. Stuff like that is common sense. It's not a party thing. If there are things that are being done on the left or the right, people need to be held accountable for that.
Okay. Shamu says, what about voter fraud and ID?
I get what you're saying about that. I think we have to do a better job of making sure that citizens only are voting and that people that are alive are voting, so we don't have any of this stuff happening out here. But once again, you also have voter and you have voting suppression. Look at what Trump and his people were doing last time. I want you to think about this. At the end of the day, they went up, and there was a situation in Georgia where there was this black lady and her daughter, and they had served as election judges. I mean, to come to their house, to threaten them, to knock on their door, man, that's crazy. That's the kind of pressure that's been put on people that should have never happened. Man, if that had been my relatives, I'd have left some people where they were standing, knocking on my mom's and grandmother's door. See, these are the type things that you have to do, you know. And that, with that being said, hey, listen, I'm not a fan of people just walking over into our country, doing whatever they want to do, getting benefits, medical benefits, being able to get housing, being able to get money, just walking over. I'm no fan of that. That's just how it is. But at the end of the day, we got to be really, 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 really honest about having a real conversation about what's happening in America. Did people elect Trump to do this? Yeah, you want there to be rules when it comes to immigration. But man, I mean, running up on people in ski masks, doing some of the stuff that they're doing, that's chaotic.
I want to talk about this little issue here. When it comes to the protesting is happening right now in Minnesota. A lot of the force of it, the hate, the hostility is stemming from the second shooting. But here's my issue. ICE was actually going to apprehend an illegal immigrant, and two guys made it their business to come out and attack ICE with shovels, and one of them was shot. So, who do we push back on?
I think what you got to do is in that situation, like man, listen, you can't attack an ICE agent with a shuffle when they're coming for somebody who they targeted as not a citizen. That's just that. But with that being said, this is something that you got to start thinking about. Not just the ability to go snatch people up, but the safety around it. All right. So let's say you got to kill these two guys or shoot these two guys or take some action against these guys because you're snatching this other person up. What about innocent bystanders that are out there? What about kids and old ladies and regular citizens that have nothing to do with what's going on? That's why I said you got to force some folks that are actually not trained to actually go out in an urban environment and do this kind of job. It's dangerous.
All right, Deborah Thompson, thank you for being here. I appreciate your comment. However, I started off the show with what you're referring to, and I pointed out that many of the Venezuelan people actually are happy with Trump and they're happy that Maduro is out. But also, we see videos of people boots on the ground and they want Maduro back. They feel like he was kidnapped. So we see a contradiction there.
It's funny how you don't never talk about the Venezuelan citizens that want Trump to save them from the same in Iran. Man, that's not our business, right? It's not supposed to be our business. We're not supposed to be out doing that for them. I thought this was America first. I thought we was going to take care of our business. I don't want to spend any of our money in Venezuela or Iran on missions and dealing with those people like that. We need to be spending our money getting our own economy right, using that money to take care of our own veterans, our own citizens, our own folks that need help. Man, that's not our job. And I thought people that supported Trump, I thought that's what Trump told us, that he was going to put America first and he was going to keep us from getting in these wars and going to other countries where we shouldn't be. He told us that, right?
Okay, so let me ask you this question. Getting back to Greenland, Donald Trump said that China, Russia has those big ships out at sea ready to take over the world, right? Something to that effect. Greenland says they haven't even seen in a decade any China ships out there. So, are we being told the truth from the president?
And see, that's the thing. We can't really trust him. You can't trust things that come out of his mouth, and that's been the thing for the longest. He says these things, he makes these grandiose statements that we know they're not honest. And even the people that happen to strongly support him, they know that he makes these grandiose statements. And they know that some of these things are not honest statements, but they choose to follow them. The thing that I always tell people is if you choose to follow somebody who's a liar or somebody who doesn't tell the truth, just because he does what he wants, because he does what you want him to do, eventually he's going to lie to you. And that's just the truth. That's just the way it works.
Okay. Wow, we're getting a lot of hard pushback in the audience calling us crybabies. Wow.
Like I always tell people, man, I don't mind getting pushed back. I don't mind having conversations, but point to us where we're lying at. Point to us how we're being crybabies. I mean, what are we being crybabies about? It's not being a crybaby when you got somebody running up on you with a Pooh Shiesty mask, trying to ask you for your ID and you've been a citizen all your life. It's not. It's not being a crybaby where you got a lady literally walking down the street at home and has to run to her home, duck inside her home, and have her husband come out and tell ICE that she's a citizen, get away from here. I mean, that's not being a crybaby, man. That could turn very, very dangerous. And see, these are the types of things where you really got to be careful in America right now. Even in the past, we were able to have conversations without name calling and having real in-depth conversations about our political differences. When you look at most of the people that, even on this stream today that support Mr. Trump, they come with, oh, you're a crybaby. Nobody likes lawyers. Nobody trusts lawyers. And it's one of those things where they're not attacking what I'm saying. They're just attacking me. And I don't care what some random person on the internet thinks about me. Just have a conversation about why you feel like you feel. And I think we've lost that in this country. Mel, you understand what I'm saying? I think we've lost that in this country. To be able to have a conversation, not have it devolved into getting personal about the person that you're talking to, and just have a real conversation. If you don't like lawyers, fine. But let's have a conversation. Like, I don't know what you do for a living, so I don't have a reason to like you or not like you or know what you do for a living when you make a comment to me. But let's have a real conversation about policy. Let's have a real conversation about what's going on in America right now. Let's have a real conversation about the future of America. Let's have a real conversation about all of it.
When people lose the debate, that's when they shoot those punches. Also, just like with Charlie Kirk, they even take it to violence, So
Yeah.
it comes with the territory.
Yeah, and that's something that I've had to understand, and it's funny like, as we talk about people making comments and really keeping your cool and keeping your head. We had a conversation where there was two podcasters this week that really got into it. Right, they got into it really, really bad, and it could have turned into a fight. And I also remember, Mel, when we had a guy come on one of my podcasts that things could have really, really went bad. But I had to realize what place he was coming from. I had to realize that it wasn't worth it, me going there with him. And I think in America, we got to be extremely careful. Sometimes we're disrespecting people we're having conversations with when it's not worth it. Even the conversation that we're having right now, people are lawyers, you're lying, you're an idiot, all this kind of stuff, all this name calling. And see, that's the thing. The internet has allowed us to be like fake tough guys, right? To say stuff we wouldn't say in people's faces, and to be disrespectful, to not have good, decent, respectable conversations. We got to start doing that again and not hating each other when we're having that conversation.
Right, absolutely. Let me ask you this question. Do you think everything is quiet with Israel and Gaza? Do you think that means peace?
I think there's so much going on in the world, and I think what Israel probably realizes right now, Trump probably has his hands full. He's not going to be able to send anybody to help them right now if they get into a conflict with those people in Gaza. So, I think that a lot of that is that there's a lot of stuff that's going on. And I think that it may be peace temporarily for now because there's so much other things going on. But I think it's going to ramp back up when things kind of calm down.
Okay. Brian says half truths are full lies. Even Satan knows how to manipulate scripture.
And see, that's where I come from too, right? I think that there has been a lot of manipulation of scripture by MAGA to fit the stuff that they are saying at times. And it's not all the time, but I think that they have actually been able to justify the way they think and the way they feel about Mr. Trump because of using religion to do so. And see, this is where I have real conversations, right? There's a lot of stuff on the left when it comes to abortion, when it comes to men being men with men and women being with women and transgenders and all this other stuff. And there's a lot of arguments in the Bible about that stuff, against that stuff. People use scriptures to say this and say that. And there's a lot of things where on the right and the left that you're going to have some real conversations about people using religion to justify their positions. See, people on the right point to the left and say, look what y'all let going on over there. Look what y'all doing over there. And then the people on the left that are in those lifestyles or that are that way and that support that are saying, yeah, but look at what y'all allowing over there. And you have these two groups of competing people pointing to the wrong, and nobody literally is 100% right when it comes to following the Bible at this point. People just use the Bible to justify their positions and to be inhuman to each other. And that's sad. Whether you feel or agree with what's happening on the left or the right, that's what's happening in America.
Okay, can you address what John is saying up top?
I can agree with the respectful dialogue, but let's not twist the facts that are uncomfortable. Israel and that area has been in war since the Pharaoh held the Jews as slaves. And see, and that's true, right? What do we expect to be able to accomplish over there? These folks have been arguing for years. They've been arguing for years. This is, classic arguing, classic killing, classic attacking each other. We're not going to be able to stop that. We can only hope to control it to where it doesn't get out of hand and cost the rest of the world. And see, that's kind of what it is. We have to be realistic. This battle over there is biblical. And people hold out that this is an argument between good and evil. This is an argument between Christianity and everything else that goes on there. This is an argument between Jews and the Gentile. I mean, everybody have to understand that that is deep and you're not going to be able to fully control that. And you got to be extremely careful when you get involved with Israel and what's going on in Gaza.
Okay, so let's talk about investing for a moment. When Donald Trump became president, he came out with the Donald Trump coin. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
Mm-hmm.
And he had his wife, she had a coin, and a lot of people put it on time. In other words, they financed it and on margins and took a big hit. But, in time they could regain. There's a rumor out that Donald Trump is going to be using the oil from Venezuela and also other resources, perhaps even from Greenland, perhaps with BlackRock. On February the 1st, they're releasing this new coin. A lot of people don't really know about it. What do you think that on the top end, these situation or the narrative is that they're going to help the Venezuelan people? They're going to split those funds from the oil between the United States and Venezuela. But on the back end, it turns into an investment.
And see, that's the concern that I have. Like, when is a country taking something over and done what's best for the people? The country takes something over and does what's best for either themselves, or they do what's best for their personal finances. And this is the concern that I have with Trump, right? The concern that I have with Trump at this point is that he is going to use what he's taken in Venezuela to somehow financially benefit from it and use the fact that American lives were risked to take it. And they want to hold on to it and control it so that they can get more money and more resources out of it. And that's the concern I have as a whole. We got to start thinking about that. We got to look at that. And we got to be honest about what's probably happening over in Venezuela with Trump. That's a very, very serious situation. And I have not seen where America decides to, hey, I'm going to take all of this money and I'm going to go give half of it to the people that we took it from. I don't see that is the goal, and I don't see that is working. And I'm looking at a comment from Brian that says, a true Christian loves his brother no matter what side you sit on. I sit with MAGA, but I disallow hate to set in. And this is the question I have for Brian Cantrell. We are taught, or we're supposed to be taught in Christianity, you don't put your politics before God. Nothing comes before God. No other God, no other thing comes before God. And I tell people, when you sit with a particular political party, whether it be MAGA, whether it be those to the far left, when is it going to be too much to sit with a group who does not do things that are biblically correct, who does not show empathy, who are not acting like Christians, who does not love his fellow brother and sister? See, these are the kinds of things that have caused Christianity as a whole to be a problem, to be attacked, to be looked at as something that is fake, that isn't happening. So these are the type things that are happening in America right now. And these are the things that they're happening around Christianity. So that's why we got to have some real conversations. Are you going to put MAGA before what's happening in America? Or are you going to put MAGA before your religion and the fact that you say you are a Christian? These are the type things that we got to take a look at and we got to consider. So That's what we got to do, and those are the things that I'm concerned about. As we talk here, I'm looking at a bunch of the comments, so you'll look as at me kind of disappear here for a minute. Yes, President Trump is taking back all of the American money from we the people. Yeah, hey, that's a comment that a lot of people are looking at. Um, and then somebody says, "You sit with MAGA." That speaks volume. That's another comment that people are making. You speak about love as you spew hate. Tough girls 6837. We definitely understand that. And then tough girl 6837 says you're a left wing jerk. And see, these are the types of conversations that we have. It's like you make it personal. You don't know how to talk to people. You don't have conversations with respect. And I think that's been happening a lot um, with a lot of these people right now. You know, you got people that just because you disagree with them, they will call you names. They will put you out there. And I think that is the level of disrespect that we're starting to show each other. That's crazy. Somebody else said, "Tough girl unhinged." Hey, I'm not bothered by what she says. I kind of feel sorry for her in terms of being able to talk to people like that. I wouldn't call her name or jerk just because I disagreed with her. But some of us are not the same, and we have to understand that there are people out there that feel that way. And it says Stella Soul say, "I agree, Calvin. Thank you, Stella Soul. We appreciate it." Emotions over intellect. Sassy Mo said that. I understand that's what I'm talking about. Emotions over intellect. And listen, we've seen emotions trump intellect, and that's the problem that we have sometimes. We've had some very powerful people or some very popular people lose because they put their emotions over their intellect. And then Hannibal 54689 says Americans are so gullible. And to a point, you might be right. I could agree with that. So that's what we're talking about. So I just wanted to put that out there. And here comes Mel. He's back, man. We had a little bit of a technical difficulty, but I took some time to read a bunch of the comments. It's great to have this conversation. And then the other part of it is, listen, y'all, say what you want about me. Call me a name. I'm okay with it. I'm going to show some emotional control because when you are on a show, if you call yourself a leader, you're going to have some self-control. And that's what it comes down to. All of us in America need to show a little bit of self-control. And then we need to be able to talk to each other without calling each other names and being disrespectful to each other.
All right, we're having a severe ice storm here, so I'll try to hang in there as long as I can. Sandra says you have a president who is totally disrespectful. His language is unacceptable.
And that is true. He has been disrespectful. He's called certain groups of people terrible. He's called certain people groups of people garbage. But that's what I talk about. When you're a leader, you can't talk about, or you should not talk about people that you're the president over like that. To calling somebody garbage, there's no sense of community. There's no sense of we're in this together. And the world is sitting back watching us, looking at us, and saying that we're going to destroy ourselves from within. And people have to understand, if you think your side is right, that's fine. But there are countries like China, and there's countries like Russia. They're putting bots on the internet to make us argue with each other and watch us to destroy ourselves from within. People don't understand that the ability of the internet and the power of the internet isn't who controls the good content, but those who can put the deep fakes out, those who can get us to hate each other, to hire bots and to hire people at internet cafes to make us hate each other. I mean, that is literally going on in America, and we got to start talking about that, and we got to stop falling victim to it.
Welcome back, Deb. Deb says Trump is literally saving our nation.
Saving our nation, that's a quite a way to put it. And when you think about this, you got people running out. I mean, there was a lady who had her head basically taken off her body. I got to be careful because I don't want to get censored here. But literally, there's a lady who literally got her head taken off her body this not too long ago. And you got people that are chasing people down the street, chasing them home. People that are citizens. I mean, I can only imagine I'm just telling you, I'm not running. I'm no track star. I'm not running. I mean, I'm not going to allow that to happen to me and to happen to mine, especially when I have people in my family, various members that have served in the military, that have given so much for this country. So we're not going to allow that kind of behavior to come from our government, and we shouldn't be allowing that.
Now, I understand that ICE has to do what ICE has to do. I get that. But how can they go into a Target inside the door and snatch up some guys who are actually assisting customers? So much so that Target had to change their policy. So if you appear to be Hispanic, they have you work toward the back of the building so ICE doesn't come and antagonize you. What say you?
And see, that's the thing, man. They're going into the businesses, and basically, a lot of these businesses are saying, "Hey, we don't want any ICE agents in here. If you're on duty with ICE, we don't want you on the store." And they have a right to refuse service. If you don't have a warrant, they have a right to refuse service. They have a right to not have you come in their establishment. And a lot of people are taking that option because they also have liability, man. They don't want their own workers hurt. They don't want chaos going on in their stores. They don't want their businesses destroyed. So these are the things that we got to start thinking about.
What about the fact that the young man, one of them, the supervisor actually said, listen, I have his documentation right here. She was telling that to the ICE agents. They took him anyway. And then once they determined that he was a citizen, they, instead of taking him back to Target, they dropped him off at Walmart. What do you say about that?
Man, see, this is the kind of stuff I'm telling you, man. I mean, I want you to think about that for a minute, right? You're a citizen and these guys have snatched you up. Then they realize you're a citizen. They don't even take you back to your job. They leave you somewhere else, man. They basically leave you somewhere else without a ride. And see, more importantly, man, I mean, there are some people that are not going to allow you to snatch them up. I got some people where they're like, go get them wherever they are. Yeah, but what happens when you get the wrong person? And I'm telling you now, God bless Trump. That's what they're saying, ice, ice, baby. But I'm telling you right now, they snatch up people like Calvin Johnson. Some stuff might be happening toward them because I'm not going to let nobody snatch me. And I'm a citizen and I've worked to be here and my family is part of this country. And there's plenty of me's out here that feel that way. There's plenty of American citizens that are not going to allow that to happen. And that's your right. You have a right to not have this happen to you. And whether you agree with me or not, we got to start thinking about it, man. I mean, at the end of the day, we have to be honest. When you go into a place to get somebody and you don't have a targeted person to get and you snatch up the wrong person, that's why I said we need to have these guys trained. And that's why I say releasing these guys in urban environments is crazy to me. You got to be extremely careful. You're putting untrained people in urban environments, snatching them up when they shouldn't be there in the first place. Think about it.
Absolutely. So, what would you say for individuals wanting to know what are the bare rights you have? Especially recently, there was a couple and their children that were basically, their lives were snuffed out because someone pretended to be UPS workers and were able to access their home. So we're out here just living our lives. How do you make a determination when they have on masks and maybe someone comes to you with a mask aggressively and you don't know who it is?
And see, that's the thing. These ICE agents are not identifying themselves. And if they don't identify themselves properly, you have a right to push back against that. If you reasonably believe that they're not ICE and they don't identify themselves, something can happen to them. You have a right to protect yourself. And that's the other thing. What's going to happen where somebody throws on a fake ICE agent ski mask and a vest and comes to your house and they're not actually ICE and they're robbing people? See, this is the kind of stuff we got to start thinking about in America. If somebody runs up on me and they don't identify themselves as ICE and they have a ski mask on, you have a right to, as an American, to make sure that you walk away from that situation if you're afraid to that point. And that's the thing. Even our laws allow us to be able to defend and protect ourselves. What's going to happen when something goes bad with an ICE agent because the person doesn't see that they're ICE? Or ICE agent doesn't properly identify themselves and they run up on the wrong person. What's going to happen? You can get charged with something when you didn't even know that the person was ICE. See, they're not trained to be in urban environments, to be in these streets with regular people. And we got to be honest about that. That is extremely, extremely dangerous.
So let me ask you this question. How do you think we can, you know, bring people together in this day and time?
Mel, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I don't know if it can be done anymore. And
Ooh.
then that's the sad part. I would love for it to be done, but we got to start caring about what's happening with each other. We don't anymore. Listen, those on the left were happy that Charlie Kirk got shot. Let's be honest. Those on the right were happy that that ICE agent shot that lady and blew her head clean off her body. Let's be honest. When you got that level of not caring for people that are American citizens that happen to be on opposite sides, is there anything that's going to bring us together? We're so in our tribes right now. I don't know if we can fix it. But I do know that we can do whatever we need to do in a safer fashion. And having random ICE agents running around here in push icy ski masks, snatching people up, ain't it. They're going to run up on the wrong person. And I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. They're going to do this, and somebody's going to be like, I didn't know they were ICE. Next thing you know, you got an ICE agent losing their life. Or you got a situation where a gun battle can ensue and the citizen going to be killed. There could be kids in the house. I mean, there are all kinds of things that can happen. We got to start thinking about what's happening in America to the point to where we can actually be on one accord. There's no sense of community in America anymore. You have the right and you have the left. Everybody in the middle is considered too soft. And that's what we have in America right now. If you're in the middle too much, and if you argue common sense, right? People are going to say, oh, you supposed to be with us. You too soft. And if you're a MAGA and you say, you know what, they got a point over there. What you doing? You with them? You know, this is what's happening in America right now. I don't know if there's anything that can bring us together. But I think that there needs to be a baseline of respecting constitutional rights and respecting each other's positions. And I think maybe we can get there.
There was breaking news this week that the biggest supporter of Blacks, Hispanics, Somalians is the white liberal women. What do you think about that article if you heard about it?
I did hear about that article somewhat, and they talk about the white liberal woman and her support for the other side, which the other side would be African Americans, people of color, brown, Mexican people, Latin people of Latin descent, Asians, those kinds of things. And what they're trying to say is that those liberal women are the biggest supporters of the other side. And I think what happens there is I don't think that's by design. I just think that liberal women have an argument that they are being mistreated, and they have been mistreated for years. And I think they can identify at certain points with what other groups of people go through. With that being said, there's also a dichotomy of what happens when the liberal woman, white liberal women, and their position starts to affect the positions of African Americans or Latin Americans or Asian Americans or those affected groups, because people have to understand those groups are not always in agreement with each other. I tell people all the time, Black women and liberal white women don't always agree about how things should go. Black men and liberal white women don't always agree on how things should go, and they have different interests. What happens when those interests diverge? And see, these are kinds of things that and propaganda that they put out there to try to make it like, hey, they are coming over actually to hurt you. And I don't think it's that. I just think that they have some shared troubles from the other side, and they want to make sure that they have those things addressed. And they feel like being over here with the African Americans, the Latin folks, the Asians, and the people of the other groups will help them get their issues addressed faster than the other side addressing them. And so I think that's a problem. Now, there are some times where you have arguments, especially when it comes to liberal white women and African Americans, where things can go really, really south, because there are some things that they may push that are not in the best interest of Black people. And there may be some things that we may push that may not be the best interest of liberal white women. But everybody has to understand that this tent over here in the Democratic Party or the tent in the Democratic Party will not always agree with each other. And that tent is huge. And that tent will have disagreements. And that tent is really, really in flux right now. Look at what's happening when you have somebody like Jasmine Crockett going up against Tallarico. I mean, you got a lot of people that are really watching this race because you got African American women that are going to support Crockett. And she's going to have to expand her base of people to other groups. And then you got people that are of Latin descent that are going to support Tallarico, and some of the white liberal women probably are going to support Tallarico allegedly. So when you start thinking about those things and how those groups allegedly are going to break out, is that the way it's going to be, or is it going to be different? So these are the kind of things that in America that we really got to have a conversation about.
Okay, guys, please take a moment, hit the like button, share, and subscribe. We really do appreciate the support. Let me ask you this question. Is Project 2025 real?
I think it is. I think it's being carried out. I think that they are doing some things to make sure that they suppress the power of the majority, that they're centralizing power and putting it in the minority. And that's what I think is happening. I mean, I think that they are actually going out and doing some of these things. I think they're going to suppress voters. I think they're going to enact policies to eliminate the ability of the majority to really control what happens in America next. And they're doing that because they will not be the majority anymore. And I think that in America, the Democratic Party in particular needed to see that coming and needed to understand that that is going to happen, because you cannot have continued power just in numbers alone when the population shifts. When you look at the birth rates of white America, Latin America, and Black America, it's easy to see that there are going to be more people of Latin descent in America moving forward. And so you got people that have been controlling this country for hundreds of years. They're looking at that, and they're going to look realistically for ways to suppress that. I think that we got to be honest about that, and we got to pay attention.
I felt like during Joe Biden's presidency, for a big part of it, he was pretty much silent or absent. I'm not sure. But it seems like with Donald Trump, he's saying something every day. You know, he's traveling, he's giving a press conference. Why do you think we see such a big difference?
I think Mr. Biden tried to do some stuff initially, but I think he's just too old. I think he wasn't healthy. You could see his mental faculties wasn't there. He didn't have the energy to be president. I mean, being president is a tough job. You have the most power than anybody in the world. And if you're in your 80s and you've been doing this for a long time and your health is starting to fail you and you're tired, I mean, he just couldn't be as active. And I don't think he could truly implement what he needed to implement for America. And that's why I thought that it was kind of, and be honest with you, selfish for him to try to run again. And I think that's where our problem exists too as well. We didn't have a full, decent primary process to get somebody to nominate. We were basically given a person. And I think that and it's not a knock on Kamala, but I want to see a process or primary so that all of these candidates can be vetted to see how they're going to perform in an election. And I think that the way that Mr. Biden did things, the fact that he got older, the fact that he wasn't really willing to let that power go, I think that was a little selfish.
When they asked Kamala, whatever you want to call her, and they said, is there anything, how do you feel about Joe Biden's presidency? Is there anything you would do different? I think she really lost herself in the sand when she basically co-signed pretty much most of his activity. I think that's what sunk her ship. What do you think?
I did think it sunk her ship, but I think that I thought he was going to get very sensitive about it if she would have answered any other way. And that's the part where I think is very unfortunate. You should be worrying about how this country is going to move forward. You're no longer the nominee. You've lost your faculties. And I think to worry about what somebody is going to, you're worried about your legacy. Man, we got a country to run. You got somebody coming in that is literally basically almost a dictator at this point, doing whatever he wants to do. We got that coming down the pike. Man, you should have pushed yourself to the side and either promoted Kamala or push yourself to the side and say, hey, we're going to have an open primary where we actually get these candidates debating against each other to fight for a nomination. We didn't have that, man. And I think that it hurt us and in one of the most powerful countries in the world, in the world's history, to come to a selection of how you're going to run one candidate against the other, to have literally not have that candidate vetted is crazy to me.
Over the last few years, when I listened to the Republican counterparts, MAGA, they often say that George Soros is behind most of the activity, protesting, most of the democratic liberal movements in America. What do you think about that?
Look, a lot of us don't even know who George Soros is, and we could care less. When you see something that's happening to you that's going to hurt you, then you start reacting about that. And that's just what it is. I don't know what's going on with us, Mel. We're flickering in and out, but I think we're fine now. But at the end of the day, it's not about George Soros, man. I'm gonna be honest with you. A lot of us don't even know who George Soros is, like I do now. But we're thinking about what's happening to us. We're thinking about policies that are being enacted on us. It's not one of those things where, oh, all the money, whether he does it or not, man, people were going to protest. People were not going to like what's happening. I mean, the Civil Rights Act thing would have happened if black folks didn't get out there and protest how we're being treated. And we didn't need a George Soros to give us the money to do it. And at the end of the day, you got to start thinking about that. A lot of this stuff is happening because we don't like what's happening. We see that the rights of Americans are being taken away. We're seeing people get snatched up. We're seeing a return of some of the policies that were very questionable during the civil rights days toward people of color. And people are looking at that saying, hey, we don't like that. Damn what George Soros is doing or not doing. People are deciding on their own that they don't like what's happening in America and they're doing something about it.
Okay, let's switch up a little bit. Let's talk about Russia and Ukraine. Do you think that Donald Trump, his whole deal with Venezuela and what he's doing now, that there's some type of back deal where maybe if Russia gave Venezuela over or did not act, maybe he'll just hand Ukraine over to Russia? That's
And
what the
see, that's
people
the
are saying.
concern. That's the concern I have, man. And that might literally happen because it seems like how are we going to tell Russia what to do with Ukraine when when we're over here taking over Venezuela?
Right, right. Some people, there's a couple different narratives going about Venezuela, but some are saying that perhaps the government there or the military in Venezuela basically handed over Maduro, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yep.
they said it just sounds too shaky that we went in and took out 32 Cuban military agents, did not lose anyone. What do you say about people who have that narrative?
But that's what I'm saying. When you think about it, it makes sense. I mean, you went in and took Maduro in, nobody did anything, and now we got to tell Russia what they can do with Ukraine. It's just, man, it's crazy what we have done, you know?
Yeah, Sassy Mo says, I believe Putin is down with the oil heist.
Think about it. He may be. Maybe Trump and Putin have something going on the back end. See, we've always wondered about what Trump and Russia and Putin have going on. And see, these are things we got to start thinking about.
Okay, so if anyone would like to come up on the show, we're down to our last 15 minutes. Feel free to come up and join the discussion. We look forward to having more people come on. Calvin, could you tell everyone how you could be contacted?
My name is attorney Calvin D. Johnson. I can be reached at my website, theywon'tletmeout.com. I can be reached at attorney Calvin D. Johnson at gmail.com. And I can reach at 214-565-5600. I'm a 24-year practicing attorney. I also hold degrees in history and political science from Howard Payne University in Brownwood, Texas. A Juris Doctorate from St. Mary's University School of Law. And I went to the Law of Medical High School for Public Services and Governmental Law here in Dallas, Texas. So all my life I've been involved in in history and politics and the law. And this is where I get my knowledge to be able to speak on these issues about.
Okay, very good. Stella is telling us to hit the like button, share, and subscribe. So let's switch up one more time here. Um, do you really think that Donald Trump has helped the economy when you boil it all down to brass tacks?
I really don't. I think there are a lot of companies that are closing. We're buying beef from Argentina. The soybean money is completely dried up. A lot of these companies are laying workers off. The food is still out of control. For example, myself personally, I am partners with a company or I work with a company out of Canada. Tariffs are starting to hurt us. When I buy something from Canada, now I'm paying extra money. When I buy something from Europe, I'm paying extra money. I bought something this week from Great Britain and it had $90 more on it than it would ever have on it because of the tariffs. So I don't think that he's really helped this economy. And I think that people are foolish to say that he has. There's been so many layoffs. Look at Neiman's and Saks for to actually have these huge layoffs or might even file for bankruptcy. Look at all these companies that are starting to shut down. I was talking to my wife, and I was talking to somebody today, and they were talking about Francesca's, one of them clothing companies were closing down. There are a number of companies that are deciding to shut down, to stop operating. There are places in these small town Americas where some of these factories that are employing people there, they employ most of the people and they're cutting workers back. There was this place in Missouri where the Amazon distribution center shut down and the workers didn't even know they were going to shut down, man. They just showed up that night and shut it down. I mean, these are the types of things that are happening in America right now. And then artificial intelligence is hurting us, man. I mean, it's taking away a lot of jobs. And it's frustrating too, because I've called places where they're using it and I'm not getting done what I need to get done. But these are the things that have been allowed to creep up. And I don't see this economy getting any better. It's actually getting worse.
Okay, Alex says GDP is over 5%.
The people can GDP all they want. All I know is the rent's up, food's up, and job loss is up.
Okay, all right, very good. So you had mentioned Canada. What do you think about when Donald Trump took office? He really ruffled the feathers of Canada and Mexico. He threatened those tariffs, right? Well, now we found out this week that Canada is in bed with China. They made $1 trillion deal with China that seems to be could be great, but it also could be a problem for security in America. What do you think?
What do you think was going to happen? You push Canada toward that direction. People are going to do what's best for them. When America starts to attack Canadians, Canadians are going to look to China and want to deal with them. When you attack Mexico and you start doing the stuff that you're doing in Mexico, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to look to other partners. There's going to be consequences for your action, even when it comes to Canada. Look at what's happening in Vegas. You know why Vegas is hurting right now? Because
Why?
their Canadian visitors have dropped 50, 60%. People from Canada are not going to Vegas. I mean, and they used to be one of the number one visitors of Vegas, but people are no longer from Canada going to Vegas anymore. Think about it.
Now, I know with you being an attorney, you know about those subprime loans, those hard money loans, those mobster loans. Well, China was giving out those loans to individuals in Africa, different countries, and so forth. Some of the stipulations of these loans is if they defaulted, China would be able to put soldiers in their military. It was just tough. So imagine if this is the case, if this started happening with Canada, people like myself that live in New York would be hard pressed, right?
Exactly. I mean, and then look at the things that we share with Canada, the technology, the stuff that we do. I'm part of a company that makes digital amplifiers and DACs and stuff like that. But think about some of the things that can happen and how Canada and America's financial futures are tied to each other. Not only that, and then the fact that we're neighbors, right? You live in New York. Canada's right at the border. I know some folks that moved right over the Canadian border that come back to America just to be able to visit, but they live in Canada right now or live close to the border so they can go in Canada and come back and forward because of what's happening in America. So think about that, but think about what China will be able to do partnering with Canada. They literally would have an eye on us just miles away. Think about that for a minute. And they could develop a relationship with Canada that Canada might not be able to roll back. But Canada has to do what's best for Canada. They don't have to continue to do what's best for America and Canada when America is deciding to stiff arm Canada. That's just life. And that's what Trump is gonna have to understand.
So when Donald Trump was going back and forth with Canada when he first took office, one of the threats that Canada made was that they were going to shut down the power for upstate New York because they control the power grid for upstate near where I live at. So we didn't know that. I mean, how many people really know that, right? So
Bingo.
we could see how this could be treacherous, right?
Could be very treacherous. The cost of it all, or them just shutting it down, period, and said, we're not going to sell you power anymore. There are a number of other things that they make that they say they're not going to sell. In addition to that, with some of these tariffs and all the stuff that's floating around the world, with people putting tariffs on each other and people putting tariffs on America and people putting tariffs on each other to make sure that they can cover off the tariffs that's going left and right. Even as a company that I work with, things have doubled and tripled in price. And see, these are the things that you start talking about in this country that are being affected by what Mr. Trump is doing. So people don't understand. I mean, there are going to be long range effects, security wise and financially, to America about the actions of Mr. Trump and his administration.
Okay, so we're down to our last 10 minutes. I want to talk to you about something. I've been wanting to talk to you about this all week. How realistic is it that Donald Trump would try to stay in office? Is this just a myth or is there some truth to this concept?
There's a lot of truth to it. And this is what I try to tell people. He does not, people are going to say he doesn't understand that you can only be president for 2 terms. No, he damn well understands it. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about the rules. He don't care about what's been done in the past. He wants to do what suits him. He wants to do what suits him being in power. He wants to do what suits him making money. Whatever we thought we had in terms of guardrails, he don't give 2 craps about. And that's the thing that everybody has to understand. So it would not surprise me that he doesn't think that he can't run again. He's already talking about, and they said he was just joking about not having an election, right? The next time, right? It's not a joke. You don't joke about something like that. When you're president of the United States, you don't go around saying stuff like that. When people say he's just joking, nah, I don't call it just joking. In year 1, he's done what he's done. He has 3 more years of this. I want y'all to think about that for a minute. So when y'all say he's joking about not having an election, I don't call it a joke. I think that's a threat. And people need to start taking that kind of language that's threatening.
Do you think the midterm elections will be an opening? Let us peer into the future of what might happen for the next election.
It will. Because if they lose, they're going to try to say all this stuff was wrong, and they're going to try to figure out ways to make sure that this election is like legitimized if they lose, and then that's when all hell's going to break loose. Because if people vote and they win this election, and then the other party says no, it's not legitimate, this and that, man, all hell's going to break loose. And that's what I'm afraid of. Because see, some people say, oh no, it's going to be fine. It's going to go like it went the last time. We're going to be okay. I make no assumptions about everything being okay.
Right. How do you feel about the fact that it appears that the Democrats do not have a sufficient leader at this time? It's almost like they led us it's almost like Martin Luther King said, I think I led my people into a building that might be uncertain. What do you say about them leading us to this place in time when there's no definitive leader?
I think that's the problem that you have. I keep bringing up the Crockett-Tallarico divide, right? You got African Americans that are going to trust Ms. Crockett. You got the other white liberals that are probably going to trust Tallarico a little bit more. The Democratic Party has a huge tent, right? And what I'm finding out is that there's several factions in that tent. You got LGBTQ, you got African Americans, you got Latinos, you got white liberal women, you got black men, you have white men, you have all of these different groups of folks, and um, it's hard to coalesce around one leader that's going to satisfy everybody. And the problem is when you have these kinds of coalitions, that when one side of that coalition doesn't win, they take their ball and go home, right? And there you go, you have a problem with winning elections. Because, like here in Texas, the big fear is depending on who wins that election, will the other side's voters come out? If Crockett wins, will the white liberals or the people that support Tallarico come out and vote for her in rural Texas? If Tallarico wins, will the sisterhood come out and vote for Tallarico? Um, will Crockett be able to get enough African American men out? Will the other side get African American men out? Um, can we keep the vote of the African American men from leaking to the other side? Those are the kind of things that we have very serious conversations about when you talk about this upcoming midterms. You have a huge tent, and the Democrats don't have a leader to upon which, if that particular faction doesn't get what they want, that they have a leader strong enough to hold us all together. And I think that's where we're having a problem with the Democratic Party.
Sassy Mo brought up a good point that has been discussed all week, is that Donald Trump is either early or late stage dementia because he's slurping, sucking spit back into his mouth. You see all these doctors, or they're professing to be doctors, talking about he's very sick. And the other week, they're talking about how dark his hands are. You can see the blood residue. What do you think?
And see, that's the thing I'm concerned about. How healthy is he mentally? People made the joke about Biden, but Trump's getting older too. He's in his 80s. And he seems to be very angry, and he seems to show less restraint. It's like he has old angry man syndrome. You know, Biden had old angry man syndrome too as well. And that's where you don't give a damn what you say to who, you just say it. And when you have leadership like that, you gotta think about that. And so when you look at Trump and his potential health, even if he has poor health, is anybody gonna say a damn thing about it, or they're just gonna let it sit there? Think about it.
Absolutely. All right. So we've covered a lot of ground tonight. Would you like to give some closing words for the good people for all the support that they give us each week?
First of all, I'm appreciative of everybody that comes on this channel. Hey, if you disagree with me, fine. If you call me a name, fine. But let's have a real conversation in America right now. Can we have a conversation where we disagree and we don't call each other names? Can we have a real conversation about the issues, about the pros and cons, about what's happening in America? Can we do that anymore? I always tell people, whether you're a Republican or Democrat, whether you're MAGA or you're far left liberal, let's have a real conversation. Let's talk to each other. And when we disagree, let's not hate each other. And when we disagree, let's not call each other's names and do all this other foolishness. Listen, in this country, we are a country, whether we like it or not. And the rest of the world's looking at us, and they're licking their chops. They're just waiting for us to choke each other out where they can come in and exploit America. Look at what's happening with China right now. China's smart. They are sending bots. They're making deals with Canada and Mexico while we go and turn those folks away. They're using their ability to manipulate the fact that we don't like each other anymore to go into social media and put all kind of foolishness out there. Think about what's happening. Think about when you let your kids go on the internet and some of the stuff that is allowed to be put in their heads. Don't you think some of that's coming from China? Do you think some of that's coming from Russia? Do you think some of that's coming from places that may not have our best interests at heart? We got to start thinking like a country again, which means, hey, I can disagree with you and you can disagree with me, but that doesn't mean I hate you. It doesn't mean I got to call your name. Doesn't mean I got to kill you. Doesn't mean I got to not see your point. In America, we better start doing this. And on our show, Mel, we're going to have serious conversations about this in the future. And come on here and call me what you want to call me. Call Mel what you want to call us. But at the same time, let's have a real conversation, and let's not blindly follow somebody just because you like what they're telling you. Start questioning what they're telling you. Start holding everybody accountable, whether it be Democrats or Republicans. And that's what we do here at the Weekly Legal Review. We talk politics, but we talk law. We talk about hot cases. But more importantly, we want you to continue to support us. And this is a safe place to have a conversation, whether you agree with us or not. Please tune in next week, 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Texas time, 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. New York time. Please continue to rock out with us. And Mel, it's time for us to go.
Different voices, but the same song. Loving a world where we all belong. Kindness leading the way, breaking the chains. In the symphony of love, the thing remains. Embracing diversity, brighter days in sight. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. The colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might.